Looks like he's coming our way. Hopefully we can scare him away. All right, just like that, back in the shop, the man cave, whatever you want to call it. Adventure dog super stoked, sticking to me like frickin' Velcro. And of course, I left my laptop battery cable on the boat. Figures, right? Anyways, where are we? Got a whole pile of new emails, as usual. Whole pile of people wondering what the F's going on out in the woods, as usual. And now I've got the late, great Bobby Short's book in front of me, and I keep going on that. We're almost through it, I think. Yeah, I don't think I missed anything. I guess we didn't read it for a while, though, right? So I'm going to do that, too. What else? That's about it. Oh, I was so tired last night when I got home. I could almost cry. But anyway, side topic. You know, what did I do this morning? Woke up, had coffee. Sarah's not here yet. And I went on to social media, and I saw some friends of mine message me some video. And then you look at the video, then you do the little swipe. And then I got stuck in that little, I don't even know what you call it. I just kept on going down with my jaw hitting the floor going, what the F? What the F? What the F? As you keep seeing all this shit that all these people around the world are putting on video. And I'll tell you what, I almost wanted to go hide in the corner and suck on my thumb and whimper a bit. But what that world, it isn't full society or the whole world, but I do realize that if you have a few screws loose and you have access to the internet, you're probably going to start flooding it with clips of videos that make general, normal, rational thinking people go, oh my God. Hope I'm making sense, but that's where I went for the last, 15 minutes before I finally got my ass in gear and shook my head at what the hell did I just do. But good God, how could there be that many fucked up people on the planet? It's so weird to watch. It's such a bizarre thing to witness. What these things comboed up with, a reach to the world, comboed up with mental health issues can do. It's crazy. It's sad. It's frustrating. It almost makes you want to just dive in the mountains, get that little cabin and live and shut yourself off from all of it. But it's all just in here, right? It's all just sitting there. What a ride that was. The odd time, right? Go take a little dive in that world and see what's up with something else. How did people get like that? What makes them motivate? What motivates them to actually do the things they're doing to themselves and publicly with a lens in front of them? It's amazing. It's amazing. What the hell? That's where I was this morning, having my first coffee. And now I'm back to here where it's really normal, talking about 10, 12 foot tall, hairy, naked dudes in the woods, right? At least thank God we're here for doing the normal things like that. Anyway, Adventure Dog is at my feet with her bones, so you might hear her chewing away a little bit. And I would like to hear from the late, great Bobby Short again. Now, did I read that? Hello there. Okay, read that. Now, where we left off is the next entry in her book, unpublished book. This title is Nearby Crane Naval Depot, U.S. Naval Warfare Center, Martin County, Indiana. Martin/Lawrence County lines, Indiana. Andy Keith, an employee of the Martin County Highway Department, was headed to work at about 6:30 a.m. with a 15-mile drive ahead of him down narrow country lanes that wind through the wooded hill country to the shoals. He topped a rise in the road a short distance from his trailer home when he saw a strange creature cross the road some 200 feet, or roughly 60 some odd yards in front of him. The creature appeared to be half man and half beast, not unlike the legendary Bigfoot, which is seen from time to time in the northwestern states. According to Keith, I got a real good look at him. Keith said The thing appeared to have come across an open field from the direction of Indian Creek, and then it disappeared into the heavy underbrush on the other side of the road. It was 6 to 7 feet tall and had shoulders about 3.5 feet wide. According to Keith, it was covered with long black hair, streaked with gray, and had human facial features. Human facial features. Its arms hung to mid-thigh. Keith said when he saw it, the strange creature appeared to be in a hurry, looking neither to the right nor left, and it took the road in about 3 5-foot-long strides that were curiously man-like. It left in its wake a sickening odor. According to Keith, it was the odor more than the fear that prevented him from following the weird being. Wow. It stunk, he said. When I smelled it, I thought it was kind of crazy to follow anything that smelled that bad. When asked whether Keith's neighbors in the sparsely populated hill community near the Martin Lawrence County line were skeptical about his unlikely encounter, Keith said, "They believed me. They just weren't sure what I'd seen." And as the crow flies, was not far from Crane Naval Depot and the U.S. Naval Warfare Center in Perry, Indiana, also within Martin County lines. Keith's friends did suggest that maybe he'd sighted a bear, which is not unheard of in that heavily wooded area around Crane Naval Base, but bears don't walk upright or take long leaping strides across the road. Others thought maybe I'd seen the hind end of a cow. Keith said in disgust. There was no doubt in Keith's mind what he observed by putting a name to it was another matter. It was on the next Sunday that Keith and 2 Bloomfield men searched for some trace of the thing's earlier appearance. Keith discovered fresh prints in the bottomland of a cornfield, about 1/2 mile southeast of the original sighting. Some corn stalks had been eaten off in the area of the prints, which were at the edge of the field, not in it. The footprints had to have been made quote, sometime Saturday night or early Sunday, Keith explained, because it had rained earlier and there was no water standing in the indentations. There were 2 prints 20 feet apart. One was in a grassy area, but the other was clearly defined in the rain-softened field. Keith made a plaster cast of it. The plaster cast shows a 15-inch long foot that measures 7 inches wide at the widest part and 4 inches wide at the heel. The 5-toe print indicated that the creature had only one big toe and no arc to its foot. Because of the depth of the imprint, Keith estimated the weight of Martin County's Bigfoot to be anywhere from 400 to 500 pounds. He said one of the men with him when the tracks were discovered weighed about 250 pounds. The man tried in vain to make an imprint as deep as the one found. Quote, he couldn't come close in it, Keith said, even by stomping as hard as he could. Andy Keith's experience with Bigfoot isn't the first among the people in the small community. At least one man reportedly had an uncanny encounter with a strange creature 3 or 4 years earlier, and rumors have had Bigfoot roaming in the area for some time. Keith said he sought no publicity Keith said he sought no publicity, but word of his plaster cast proof leaked out. He also stated that he had been the subject of numerous radio broadcasts and newspaper stories throughout southern Indiana. We asked Keith's wife, Pamela, if the idea of some unidentifiable beast prowling around the countryside near her isolated home frightened her. I don't think about it, she said. Keith, however, didn't sleep right for weeks. No doubt. Andy Keith, Martin County, Indiana, 1979. Wow. Another great story made up from someone who was bored and didn't have anything better to do but make up a story like that, right? Said no one ever. 29 Palms Marine Air Ground Task Force Training Command, San Bernardino County, California. A wife's letter. Quote, the early part of 71, my husband was in charge of the Armory Night Guard. One night he told me a Marine was found at the rifle range almost incoherent. His rifle bent almost in two. He described what was to be later called the Yucca Man. The guard felt or heard a noise coming from the dark interior of the desert. Upon raising his rifle and shouting the command to halt, the creature came at him, taking the rifle away from him and breaking it in half. The investigation of the area and the guard's description was that of a Bigfoot. For what I remember, federal agents were called in, but I do not know who made that call. There were many civilian dark suits walking around and men in overalls looking for additional information and clues. End quote. Well, I hope it wasn't the agents that were guarding Trump on the stage. Had to say it. Local officials that were called in from the neighborhood in 29 Palms near the base found out 2 Yucca men seen that same night, one quite large and a smaller one with it, at the corner of Valley Vista Street and Utah Trail. The resident dogs continually barked while people looked out their windows trying to see the creature. Further down the same road later on, the creatures were observed near a horse corral, where the horses were totally panicked. Another sighting was reported in Joshua Tree National Monument, now a park, and the people who sighted them were monument employees. This is a desert community, not well occupied with people, and most of the area is military base and not accessible. Quote, bending the rifle in half, end quote, was a bit hard to imagine. While the rifle may have been broken at the stock, I wrestled with the idea that it is totally bent in half. I think perhaps a bit of excited exaggeration occurred in the retelling of the incident from husband to wife. You never know. 29 Palms Marine Corps Combat Installation. The Mojave Sandman and the Morongo Valley Monster are but a few of the names the soldiers have over time given Bigfoot-like forms that walk the desert at night. Other names, the Hooly Booly Man, Big Spike, and the Charlie Creature, a term that might have been a holdover nickname from the Vietnam conflict. This next email came in 2005. Quote, my brother's dead now from a brain tumor. Was once a Marine NCO stationed in the Mojave Desert at Marine Corps Air Ground Combat Center at 29 Palms, California. I remember hearing Jack tell a story about a breach in the perimeter that caused some concern. Jack called it the Mojave Sandman. This is 1991. Since that time, I've heard the creature called the Morongo Valley Monster. Have you heard of that? Whatever that damn thing was, my brother said it was big, hairy, and a frequent visitor to the base. It seemed to travel up from Joshua Tree north directly through the base towards the Mojave Preserve, and always at night between 0200 and 0300 hours. Temperatures out there in the daytime fluctuate between 120 degrees to a low of 10 degrees in the winter. This one time, he recalled, was in a blistering sandstorm, the kind that strips the paint off your car. And here comes the hair-covered Sandman right on time, up from the south, heading north the way it always went, with no apparent regard for the sting of blowing sand. Jack always thought that was odd. When Jack reported the breach, he was ordered not to engage. His name is Kenneth. I live near Pawnee, Nebraska, June 2005. The remarks intrigued me in that it was not only interesting why the sandstorm didn't rip the hide off the Sasquatch, but how it is the big hairy man was able to tolerate the pain. Sandstorms can be brutal. Never mind how hard it is to breathe in a sandstorm of that intensity. Similarly, field men have tracked trails of footprints in deep snow that were barefooted and even frozen. Feet and icy conditions seem not to bother the Sasquatch. I'm not convinced conditioning plays a huge role in such situations. Is it possible that some Sasquatches are impervious to certain levels of pain? Pretty certain they are. Nearby, Fort George G. Meade U.S. Army Installation. Author of, quote, 50 Years with Bigfoot, end quote, Mary Green, put me in touch with a friend of hers in January 2012 who lives outside the military base fencing in Severn, Maryland. About a mile from the base perimeter, it was deeply wooded. The informant didn't give out the information easily. He would not divulge the name of the military base. I filed reports mostly generally by county, and when he told me he lived in Severn, and Arundel County, Maryland, I figured the military base had to be Fort George G. Meade, a U.S. Army installation. Of interest, the base provides a wide range of services to 95 partner organizations from the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard, as well as to several federal agencies, including the NSA, National Security Agency, and the U.S. Army Recruiting Command, the Defense Information School, the Defense Courier Service, the U.S. Field Band, and very recently, the U.S. Cyber Command. In my correspondence with the informant, he noted the following. Quote, last year I noticed a home that was surrounded on two sides by woods. What made me notice the house was they not only had floodlights on the side of the house all night, but they always had the light on at the front door. Then, after about 5 months, the house went up for sale. After they moved out, and the new folks moved in. And I noticed in the wooded area close to the house, some very large trees were broken in half. 2 months later, the new neighbors were there, started leaving all the lights on also. They did not do this from the beginning. This house is very close to the base. Back in the woods, I guess, it was about November of last year, 2011, a huge tree came down. In my mind, there was only one explanation for it coming down, and that was a Sasquatch. It was the only tree that was disturbed. As far as the other Bigfoot activity, to me at times there is plenty. I hear many bird calls between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m., possibly Bigfoot teenagers on the move looking for food. They normally start in the winter when they are in need of food. Interesting. It wouldn't be difficult to believe that if the local residents of Severn, Maryland are aware of the night movement of hairy life forms, surely the military, with all their perimeter alarms, cameras, motion detectors, and security precautions, also know about Sasquatch. If the Joint Chiefs know, most certainly the members of the EOP, Executive Office of the President, know. If they can track down Bin Laden, no doubt they have an eye on the Sasquatch. We would be foolish not to recognize that fact. There tends to be no shortage of Sasquatch reports in Anne Arundel County, Maryland. Mike Frizzle reported in July 2000 several bricklayers. Hey, I'm reading. Several bricklayers working at a Maryland mall construction site claimed they were badly frightened by a huge dark bipedal creature. The interesting part of that. What are you hearing? Is that all right? You good? Hey. I'm going to start reading. She'll start barking. There you go. It's okay. Sorry. The interesting part of that story is the crew reported the sighting to police who investigated and also saw something unusual, which they refused to talk about. We should not be surprised. 2005, a bow hunter noticed an aggressive kind of gibberish moving east to west behind his hunting blind, which he believed was scaring off the deer. This too was in Anne Arundel County. Beyond that, howls were heard around Oxbow Lake Natural Preserve, also in Anne Arundel County, Maryland, in 2008. The list is long. I'll say the list is long. Our lists are frickin' huge. Excuse me. Now, thank you, Bobby Short. I'm sure you're here with us. 100% you're here with us. All right. Who do we got? What do we got? Recent ones here. Mark this as red. Hi, Steve. Thanks for doing what you're doing. By being the people's voice, I'm sure it's helped several people that may have had similar experiences. I'm a solo hunter, and I've never really been rattled by anything except this one time, scouting for a good bow hunting spot in an old growth section of woods on a farm. I got that funny feeling I was being watched. I became so overwhelmed by the feeling of being watched and feeling like I was about to be grabbed by something, I had to leave. Talking to the landowner about my experience, he said he saw a black cat the size of my coonhound in the woods. It scared him, and he really didn't know what to make of it. Just that one sighting, and that's it. My sixth sense must have been kicked in that day and told me to get the hell out of there. That cat may have been watching me the whole time. Oh, and also, it doesn't matter how you say Adirondack, we all know what you mean. Same with the Indian names. Only a dick would tell another man how to talk. I say Z, not Zed. And I don't hear you busting anybody's balls over that, because you're not a dick. Keep up the good fight. We need to hear everything you got. You can use my name. I live in Maryland's Eastern Shore. Steve Douglas. Okay, man. Appreciate that. Good friend of mine saw a huge black cat cutting the corner of a field timber to timber in Tennessee. And if he says he saw it, that's what he saw. Lots of people seeing the black cats. A lot. No surprise to me. Okay, this is titled The Truth. Here we go. That's what we're about. Saturday, May 28th, 1994, Granite Creek, Norman, Idaho. Otherwise known as Priest Lake, Idaho. A friend and myself packed up my blazer and fishing gear, lunch, and 2 mountain bikes in the back, which will have been the best decision we could have made that day. In reference to my photos, red indicates the route we traveled in my blazer. Green is the flow of Granite Creek from Priest Lake, obviously upstream. At the end of our travels in the blazer, you will see red X indicating the end of the road. The blue dots from there show that we grabbed our gear and proceeded to walk upstream towards a fishing hole we knew about from previous years. By this time, we were veterans of Priest Lake. Beginning in 1982, we started camping at Priest Lake, and every year from there on. The white circle with the arrow was the spot of my first encounter. As my friend and I started walking up the shoreline, we heard a peculiar, loud, rat-a-tat-tat noise echoing through the valleys of the mountains there. Another noticeable piece of information would be the elevation. I believe we were up towards 2,000 feet above the elevation of the lake at this point. But as we walked up the creek, the noise kept getting louder, and we started hearing a crashing on top of the water. That crashing would happen every 5 to 7 seconds. I would say, and it was very loud, and it was getting louder as we were getting closer. We'd stop at this point to observe what these noises going on were. With my friend behind me, I stretched out over the bank of the creek, which was about 50 to 70 feet wide, with a smooth flowing action downstream with no rocks or rapids. Being Memorial Weekend, northern Idaho, and the end of the rainy season, the creek is at its deepest by this point. But as I reached out over the creek and looked upstream, I saw, about 50 yards in front of me, a large, downed, barkless log, about 3 feet in diameter, reaching out over the top of the water, at least halfway across the creek, coming upwards about 5 to 6 feet, and slamming down on top of the water. Then the water would overtake the log and start to push it downstream and also down underwater. Okay, I've seen that a lot with branches, etc. Then the log would come up out of the water and pendulum swing back over and then crash down again, repeating. All while hearing what seemed to be like a drum roll and very loud. This is right before the moment that an overwhelming sense of fear overwhelmed my whole being and flooded my mind with a dozen thoughts all at once. I looked up to what I first wanted to see. I looked up to what I first wanted to see what direction the wind was, because I was thinking grizzly bear or moose at this time. And being a resident of Alaska before, I know what moose aren't capable of. And I've seen the moose in this area before. I also know there are like 50 resident grizzly bears in northern Idaho, so I wanted to know which way the wind was blowing, and it was actually in my face like a light drizzle. So I knew I was downwind of whatever animal was causing this. And as I looked up, okay, hold on a minute. I think I misinterpreted what you were saying about the log moving. I thought it was the current on a limb where they can go on the current, but I guess it's not. Sorry. So I knew I was downwind of whatever animal was causing this. And as I looked up, I saw about a 150-foot Douglas fir tree swaying 40 feet from side to side out of all others that were standing still. That's when my friend turned around and hightailed it back to the Blazer. I kept moving forward because my curiosity got the best of me. Everything stopped at once, and I knew whatever was doing this knew that I was there. At this point, it had stood up from behind the foliage that was at least 6 feet tall at the base of that tree that was swaying, and the log that was smashing on top of the water. And what I saw was the back left side profile of a 9 to 10 foot tall auburn Sasquatch with muscles going from the bottom of his head to the outsides of his shoulders. It seemed like his shoulders were as wide as my Blazer. Fear overwhelmed me to the point of dropping everything that was in my hand, turning and running as fast as I could through the brush back to my Blazer, where my friend hadn't even seen what I'd seen yet. And how was I going to explain this to him? He said, "Hurry, get in the Blazer, let's go, let's go." I couldn't find my keys. And so all I can think of was mountain bikes. I told him to get the mountain bikes. We have to ride downhill. And I don't know where the keys are. And as I'm riding downhill, I crashed a couple of times because I was going so fast and I was thinking that this thing was going to chase me and kill me. But I didn't know anything about these creatures at this point, except for what I've seen in On Search Of with Leonard Nimoy when I was a child, somewhere in 1977. I'm going to stop right here and send you some pictures with this email. I will email you again very soon with a few more stories I want to talk about. Guardian angels and an incident that happened to me in the Spokane River in 6th grade, and also some friends of mine's stories of their encounters with Sasquatch. Thank you, and I look forward to talking to you in the near future. Holy shit. There you go. Jeremy, welcome to the club. Welcome to the club. The one you didn't ask to be a member of, but there's no escape. Once you're in, you're in. Right? Glad you found everybody here on your own. Now, I don't think I need to go out of my way to share all these pictures of exactly where this happened with the public. I do not believe myself that giving a general area, strip of land, a river, whatever, to the public is going to make much of a difference for whether or not somebody has an encounter with one of these beings. Well, maybe it would actually, maybe it wouldn't. I don't know. It's a funny place to be for me because I know that they have been right here on my property. I know they've been on the river just down the bank. I know they've been on the highway right over here. I know they've been at the farm field off to the left one street. Right? They can be anywhere, anytime, and the majority of the population is not going to have this experience. They're just not. But they can be anywhere, anytime. So, I don't know. Does it, if you are susceptible to possibly vibrating on the same frequency that it possibly, apparently, enables you to have this experience, is it going to matter whether or not you go somewhere or not? My brain's babbling. Coffee. Coffee. Yeah, it's a Google Earth, run of Google Earth photos of where they had this happen. Not too far from the lake. There you go. Welcome to the club, man. I'm looking forward to you sharing more for sure. I want to hear all stories. I want to hear everything, all right? If you got something that you believe is either going to help you to share it or help somebody here, I'm all over it like a fat kid on a frickin' Smartie, right? As usual. Now, that's quite the frickin' description, isn't it? Of those big, large men, man-like beings people see That is something else to see, and especially the physical, what they can pull off physically. Something else. It messes with a lot of people's minds and souls, right? Here's another one. Strange in Silverton, Oregon. Would like to stay anonymous. I gotcha. Hey bro, I've been watching for a while, so here's my story. Bracket stories. On your show, I heard someone talking about the Silverton area. So here are my experiences. Back in the mid-90s, I was a teenager. We lived in a small farm off near Abiqua Creek. Pronounced Abiqua. Huh, I nailed it. Go figure. I've had some strange incidences on that farm and some others nearby. The house was near the highway and the barn was about 100 yards behind the house. In between the house and the barn was a chicken enclosure. One summer night I snuck out at around 11 p.m. to smoke a cigarette. As I was walking down towards the barn, the feeling of dread overcame me. I quickly turned around and sprinted back to the house. I felt as if I was flying. Like the ground was a springboard and the trip back was as if it took no more than 10 seconds. I was weirded out for a while. I went to room to sleep. The next morning I went back out to check it out, and all of our chickens were gone. Just some feathers laying in the grass. Another weird thing that happened. This is so crazy. I have a dog, half yellow lab, half German shepherd, named him Dusty. One day, Dusty chased a bicyclist riding down the highway. My dad didn't like that and put him down. Buried him in the field behind the barn. Now, to paint a picture, my home life was not very good, and I spent most of my free time way back in the woods behind our house. The access to the woods was through the neighbor's field, and we did not have permission to be back there. The creek was down there also, and I loved to fish and explore the woods, and to be alone. Most days after school, I would go out there and stay out till dusk. I also had a dirt bike that I would occasionally ride out in the woods if we had any extra fuel for it. Anyways, one cold, drizzly winter's day, I was feeling like I needed to go outside. I walked to the field behind the barn and noticed footprints in the mud. Being about 15 years old, I decided to follow them. And as I set out walking beside them, my muck boots kept getting stuck in the mud about calf deep. I decided to walk in the footprints, and it was a bit better. However, the stride was quite a stretch for me. As I was slogging through, I started having second thoughts and trudged over to the side near the pasture fence where it wasn't plowed. Much better, and I could still see the footprints. About halfway along the field, the footprints stopped. They just vanished. Said thousands of people at this stage of the game. I went back through the mud to look and noticed it was right where Dusty was buried. What the F? I've heard of disappearing tracks and lone footprints. It is real, and I've seen it. A few years later, it was about 97 or 98, I was now able to drive, and I was dating a girl at the time, who's now my wife. After spending time with her, I would stop at a little cemetery and smoke a cigar or two before going home, as it was between our houses. One day I stopped as usual. I got out of my car, leaned against the hood, and just looked up at the stars. After a few minutes, I heard a sound that sent chills through me. It sounded like a woman being tortured, and it was getting closer and closer. I stood up for about 30 seconds. I froze for about 30 seconds. Now it sounded like it was just at the other end of the cemetery. I pulled myself together and jumped in the car and sped off. Never went there again. Another thing that happened in the early 2000s, I was married by then and liked to chase steelhead. The closest steelhead fishing was at the Molalla River, about a 40-minute drive from Silverton. I like to explore and hike and find new places. I was driving up the main road and decided to pull over to see if I could access the river. I got out with my pole and started following a game trail that led down the hill towards the river. The woods looked to be older, second growth Douglas fir, really open under the canopy and quite cool and dark. I glimpsed a nice looking pool between the trees and started getting a bit excited. And as I got closer, I seemed like my vision blurred and my head got fuzzy. I stopped and that feeling of dread came over me. My gut said, "Get out now." So I did. I ran back up the hill, threw my pole in the back of the Jeep, and took off. Anyways, this is what happened to me. I know there's a longer history of stuff happening in this area, and if anyone else has stuff to share, it would be appreciated. All right, yes, it would. And thanks for being one of the first ones to crack that open. Being brave and honest. Silverton, Oregon. Who's got it? Who's been there? Who's seen it? Who's sitting in the back bleachers not saying nothing? Maybe this is enough to knee-jerk you into finally doing it. Because this person did. There you go, the vanishing... How about the vanishing footprints vanishing where the dog was buried? That's a little odd, right? A little odd. Really odd. Anyway, let me do one more. Excuse me. One more. And then I'm going to get out and go at it around this place getting chores done. I've got a couple fence poles to dig and pound in. I got a gate to put up. Who do we got? These are all recent, by the way, these emails today. Okay, mark this as red. Hi, Steve. I saw a Sasquatch in 1981. I was traveling through Washington State near Yakima on Route 22 through the Yakima Indian Reservation early in the morning, driving to Victoria, BC, to Boise, Idaho. I was traveling fast. As I approached a small hill, a row of objects crossed the road in front of me like quail. As brown blobs about 8 feet above the road. The blobs collected in a figure on the side of the road, and there he was, walking away from me on the shoulder of the highway. Reddy brown in color, about 10 feet tall, heavy build. I stopped beside him. When I reached him, he stood in front of my car and stared across the road. We both just stared at each other. Finally, he crossed the road in front of my car and disappeared down the bank on the other side. There were cornfields on both sides of the road. I think he was there for the corn. I didn't get scared until he disappeared. Then my scalp tightened and my ears rang. He had crossed the road. He had crossed the road as a series of blobs and then assembled his form at the road's edge. I guess I can travel that way. I haven't talked about this for a very long time. Yours sincerely, can I say your name? Paul Baines. All right, Paul. That is one hell of a mind-bending experience to share. Not too many people would have the guts to come forward and share that one, would they? I don't believe we've ever heard anybody share that one before. Have we? I don't think so. I would have remembered that. A series of brown blobs all of a sudden forming up to be one of what everybody sees. Huh. Just when you thought you had it all figured out, right? Anybody else seen something like that? If you have, don't be scared to share it. Email me. Quit being scared. Quit being scared. Oh my God, quit being scared. A buddy of mine died just a little while ago, and I'll bet you he, yeah. I bet you he wasn't replaying his life and wishing he wasn't scared. That guy's definitely wasn't scared of shit. Where'd I go? How did I get on that one? I'm just saying, don't be scared, all right? I don't want it all of... You just do not want to be in your last moments wishing you weren't something you were, which prevented you from a lot in life. Picking up what I'm putting down? If you are going to choose to succumb to being scared in this lifetime, you're going to lose out on a lot. A lot. Man, if I was scared... If I went through life scared of what people thought, I would be nothing. You guys wouldn't know me, see me. I would be nothing. And believe me, I had a lot of people in my life who claimed to be friends of mine, and they weren't. Right? They were almost as if there's a lot of people that you have in your life. They almost prefer for you to be scared of ridicule by them. They want you to. When you later on in life, you look back and it's like. it's almost as if in a weird way their subconscious could see you advancing and they wanted you to stop, halt, and stay here, back here with me. Right? And they try to make you feel shame for the direction you may be going in life. Hope I'm making sense. I'm just saying. Kick all those people that want you to be scared of ridicule from them and kick them to the effing curb. They're garbage. They're garbage people. Until they can pull themselves out of that garbage bin, they're a crab in the bucket. Right? Climb out of that frickin' bucket. Leave the crabs in the bottom. Kick their claws free of your frickin' ankles. Get them out of your life and move forward and quit being scared. Man, oh man. How many times do I say this, right? Obviously, I know it's an important thing. Especially in this, it goes hand in hand with this topic. Being scared of ridicule. Being scared of human beings. Being scared of what people think. That is such a handy tool to whoever it is that wants you to just exist as a honeybee. For you to be scared, right? F them. Please pick up what I'm putting down. Follow my lead in that direction. Please. Please. Please quit being scared. Anyway, I wonder how many people are still sitting on the fence watching this channel, listening to all the brave, honest people come forward, but they still can't do it. Oh, I'm not going to do it. Nope. I won't share your name. Is that rain? We're in a shower. Oh my God. Sweet. Anyway. I won't share your name. I don't have to share your name. It's fine. You're safe here. I hope a lot of people who are hesitant realize by now you found your people, alright? But anyway, I don't know if she's got any of these left or not. Haven't a freaking clue, but I got these two in the shop. I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different ones to choose from. Now it's raining. I'm going to stick this in my truck. It's raining. I'm sure it's not going to last all day. Anyway, there you go. I'm out of here. Things to do. Please email me what you know, what you've seen. Please. Or email someone. I don't give a shit if you... It doesn't have to be me, alright? I just want you to please be brave and get it out. Please. It'll help somebody. It'll help you. Now, links below, in the description below for those decals. The backup channel. And how to email your truth to all the people. There you go. With hopefully the battery in my laptop lasts another day. Because now I've just found out I'm going back fishing on Monday night. Monday night I gotta go. For Tuesday. What day is Sunday right now? I gotta get my ass in gear. I'll be back shortly. Share my story, howtohunt.com. It's in the description below.